The altruistic motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Please note the way that I recite this. A little slow, a little deliberate. It's on purpose so that we can listen to what it is that we're saying, each of the sentences, each of the phrases, and so on, and making a heartfelt connection with these. When we do them too fast, I think it just becomes very cerebral and we're not paying attention to the meaning. So, when we're in a group, it's especially important to do it so that the group is able to join the recitation and not be speeding through it. When you're by yourself, it's up to you. But the point is to make that mindfulness, heartfelt connection with the meaning of the prayers, not to win any kind of a race about how fast I can do it or something like that. Not to be pejorative, but just to make that point to you all. So back to the altruistic motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. In Tibet, Dagla dangwa je pe dra no pa je pe ge. Pa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo pa je pa tam she ki so je pe. Manam ka dam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dug now dang drel nor du la na me pa yang dag pa zog pe zhang zhu brin po she to pa ja. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Deshe du sang ma ge gi ba du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she ba du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Transcend sawa dangur pa je pe pa den la ma dam pa nam la kyab su chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kyab su chi o. Dam pe cho nam la kyab su chi o. Pa pe ge du nam la kyab su chi o. Pawo kadro cho kyung song me song yeshe gi cheng dang dem pa nam la kyab su chi o. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shang Shu Ning Po Chi Ki Bar Sangye Nam La Kab Su Chi Chodang Shang Shub Sampa Yi So Klang De Shin Kab Su Chi Jitar Nong Ki De She Gi Shang Shub Tuk Ni Ki Padang Shang Shub Sampe La Pala De Dag Rim Shin Ne Patai De Shin Dro La Pandandu Shang Shub Sam Ni Ke Gi Shing De Shin Du Ni La Pala Rimpa Shindu La Pajio. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chonam La Zhang Zhu Badu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Soki Pe Sonam Gi Drola Penshir Sangye Jupasho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesem centam she de wadang de we gurdang dempar jorchi. Dug now dang du now gi gu dang dra wa jorchi. Dug now me pe de wa dang mi dra wa jorchi. Nay ring chak dang ni dang dra wei dang nam la ne pa jorchi. Now we do the 7-limb prayer. We especially do the 7-limb prayer when we're going to do a deity yoga practice like we are today. The reason why is that the 7-limb prayer is the framework on which all the deity yoga practices is hung. It's like a tree, a 7-limbed tree. So all the deity yoga, all the elements of the deity yoga is part of this tree. So the elements are the refuge, the offerings, the confession, the rejoicing, the requesting, the supplication, and the dedication. So these 7 limbs are part of every deity yoga practice that we do. Sometimes it might be a stanza that each one of these 7 limbs is reflected in the yoga practice is a stanza. Sometimes it's just a sentence. Sometimes it's just a phrase. And sometimes it's just implied, but it's all there. And part of our recognition of the deity yoga practices is to recognize the 7 limbs within the practices. So as we get more and more into the practices, as we're doing these by ourselves at home, this should be one of the focuses that you're doing to get the most out of the meaning of the deity yoga practice. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a meaning in Buddhism. That's one of the beautiful things about it. It doesn't waste anything. And we see that everything is all interconnected with each other. So by learning these different things and recognizing these different things, we become the embodiment of these different things. We become the tree. We become the deity yoga. So this is an important part. It's not just cerebral. It is something within ourselves that we become part of this. We become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. And this is how we do it, through the deity yoga. Okay, so now we recite the 7-limb prayer, just in English is fine. Yes, Brendan, did you have a question? Okay. I bow down respectfully with my body, speech, and faithful mind to all Tathagatas in the 10 directions, those who have already reached the Tathagata state, those who are reaching it at present, and those Tathagatas still to come. Through the power of Samantabhadra's prayers, may all Buddhas manifest vividly in my mind. I prostrate to them, multiplying my body as many times as there are atoms of the earth. In each atom, I visualize as many Buddhas as there are atoms, surrounded by countless bodhisattvas. Thus, all space is filled with Buddhas and bodhisattvas. I praise all Buddhas through magnificent chanting, expressing the great ocean of their excellent qualities. To all Buddhas, I make offerings of various pure flowers, flower garlands of music, anointing oils, magnificent light, and fragrant incense. I make offerings to them of fine garments, perfume, and potpourri, piled high as Mount Meru and arranged in the most beautiful way. I visualize the highest and most extensive offerings and offer them with great faith to all Buddhas. I prostrate to the Buddhas and make offerings to them, following the deeds of the great Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. I confess to you, Buddhas, whatever negative actions I have committed due to the power of anger, desire, and ignorance. I rejoice in the merit of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, of the great Bodhisattvas and Pratyeka Buddhas, those who have attained Arhatship, those who have entered the path to Arhatship, and all other beings. I request to all great protectors and Buddhas to turn the highest wheel of Dharma as the light dispelling the darkness of beings in the 10 directions and leading them gradually to the enlightened state. I supplicate those Buddhas intending to pass into parinirvana to live long for as many eons as there are atoms of the earth in order to benefit all beings. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, For the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the 7-limb prayer? It's sometimes called the 7-branch prayer. You'll see it phrased that way many times. Okay, very good. So now we do the short mandala offering. So we're making the mudra of the 4 continents, the sun and the moon, and Mount Meru. So this is the position here, and I believe that I sent everybody a copy of the mudras, the mudras that we do, the hand gestures when we make the offerings and so on. So this was included on that piece of paper. So if you have trouble with it, we can talk about it. I can try and guide you through it, but it takes a little while to get the muscle memory to be able to do this quickly and so on. But we have to start someplace. So it's very, it creates mindfulness. Remember, what we're doing is we're bringing our physical body together with our intellectual mind to open up our heart. So by missing any one of these elements, you're missing part of the key that's going to unlock our spiritual heart. So this is all part of the genius of the tantric practices. So we recite in English. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the lamas who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings with my body, wealth, and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization, enlightenment. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostration, offering, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. In Tibet, Sashi pochu jugme totram, Rablin shi ni de ken padi, Sange shin la mikte powayi, Drokun nam dag shindu te war so, Kusong yong sog la me sog nam la, Chi nang chang sum de shin yi ki cho, Dak lu long cho nak shi ong she la me cho gi no drub sao du so, Chak sa wa dang cho ching sa pa dang, Jesu yi rang kol sing so wa yi, Ge wa jung se da gi ji sak pa, Tam she sok pe shang shub chur no. Om Guru Ratna Mandala Puja Mega Samuja Saparana Samaye Ahom. Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world. Your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor Vajradhar without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father, Jigdan Sumgun. Continually I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I can realize the unelaborated nature of mine. Tibet. Shabdran Gido Mezam Lin Chen, Bagpe Tong Sum Yong La Kya, So Me Yawa Dorje Chang, Pa Jigten Gong Pe Shaladu, Du Tak Tu Sam Gyu Kyo Le Me, Jinji Lob Shik Tok Je Chen, Yingi Mon Pa Sel Nes Gang, Samdroja du topa jinjilo. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination, according to the disposition and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings. Samchen namki sampadam lo yi je dak jitawa she chung tomong te pa yi joki korlo kordu so. Okay, thank you. Those are our opening prayers. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yes, what does Vajrahara mean?
Vajradhara.
Vajradhara.
Two
Yes.
words, Vajradhara.
What does that mean?
Vajradhara is the primordial Buddha.
Oh, okay.
Samantabhadra. There's two, he has two names, Samantabhadra or Vajradhara. And Samantabhadra, he's completely naked, all blue body. In Vajradhara, he's wearing Samagragaya clothing. He's wearing the headdress and he's wearing robes and so on. He has a blue body. And both Vajradhara and Samantabhadra are so pure that they are unborn. They remain unborn. They are in the heart center of the enlightened ones. They're in our heart center, but we may not be recognizing them yet. We may have glimpses of them. Vajradhara. So Vajradhara is spoken of mostly in the Kagyu tradition. So what it means is Vajra means the indestructible nature, the indestructible nature, the indestructible wisdom that is manifest in the heart. And the word Dhara, D-H-A-R-A, means holder, holder of the indestructible wisdom. So as we are developing our connection with our spirituality, with our heart center, we're having glimpses of Vajradhara. Not eyeball glimpses, but heart thought glimpses. When our heart aches, or in the heart center here, aches to be, that pure. So that's the meaning of Vajradhara. So thank you for asking that, because
Thank you for explaining. That was a beautiful explanation. I understand more now.
Very good. Okay. So before we get started in the green tar practice, I just want to make a point or two. And just a moment. How is it that we become these deities? We do these deity yoga practices. The deity we've talked about are these elements within ourselves, these pure elements that are within ourselves, these pure Buddhas that are within ourselves. How is it that we become them? How is it we become in union with them? Yoga means union. How does it work? Well, first, what we're doing is we are, in the outer sense, we are identifying what they are in their outer sense, what their bodies are like, what clothing they're wearing, what implements they're holding, and so on like that. So in the outer sense, we're identifying with that. And as we sit in the body position of those deities, we can visualize ourselves in the outer sense as becoming those deities. So we're making that outer connection. The next thing is the intellectual connection. So the intellectual connection is this generation stage of visualizing the meaning of the clothing, meaning of the position, the body position, the meaning of the implements, and so on, all these different aspects that are in the visualization stage, this generation stage, this first part of the stage, when we begin to do the deity yoga practice. So we're making that intellectual interconnection with that and putting it together with the meanings and so on that aren't spelled out. They need to be taught to you or pointed out to you through the master. This is the relationship of the master together with the student. So we learn from the master these things. These kinds of things are not always printed in the text, and they may be experienced in the meditation, but if they're not pointed out for us first, we may not recognize them. We miss them. So the master-student relationship, you see, really brings along a much swifter realization, a much swifter process, and able to attain enlightenment. This is the purpose of the empowerment. This is what the tantric deity yoga is all about. This is all part of the tantra, the practice, and so on. So we're identifying all these different aspects, physical aspects and inner aspects of the deity. This is how we become the deity. What we're building is a mindfulness, is like a platform, an awareness, a mindfulness of this all the time. And we take this with us when we get up off the cushion, if we're successful. In the beginning part, it may be a little more abstract. It's not easy to do that. But gradually, as we do this over and over and over again, we begin to stabilize the outer quality within ourselves and the inner quality within ourselves. And we take these attributes with us as we go out and do our everyday things in the world and so on. So we're building this mindfulness, this platform on which we move and so on. Also, what we are doing is we are eliminating all the things that don't fit into this picture, don't fit into this purity. When we're doing things, when we are thinking hatred thoughts, when we are being ignorant about something, when we are being greedy, we recognize that and we eliminate it because we want to be the deity, we're trying to be the deity, and as the deity, these things become non-existent to us. So we're doing that through making choices, you see? So we're eliminating the things that don't fit into the deity, don't fit into that personification. And we are exhausting all the different possibilities of what all these different things that need to be eliminated. All that we're concentrating on is the pure nature, the Vajradhara of the deity. Because each of these deities are meditational deities, and they are like echoes, or they are like reverberations, or they are like reflections of the Vajradhara, of the Samantabhadra, of the primordial Buddha, the primordial nature that is within all of us. The differences between all these different deities is their activity, or are their activities. That's the differences between them. But the essence of who they are, that Vajradhara, is all the same. It's all bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. But in a way in which that is actualized for the sake of the benefit of all human beings is their activity. So this is how we identify, this is how we recognize ourselves, as we've done Shenrezig, as the Bodhisattva of compassion. We've done Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And now today we're going to do the Buddha of fearlessness, or of fearlessness, or protection, is green Tara. So we're going to learn that. So the way in which we tie this together is through our speech. Our speech is an action. It is an agent of the brain, of the intellectualization. The intellectualization is suffused with the Sambhogagaya. The Sambhogagaya is the enjoyment body of the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya is this pure nature. And then for our benefit, the genius of the Buddha was to be able to articulate this as the Sambhogagaya, all these meditational deities that we're studying now, that we're recognizing and becoming, in order that we may purify ourselves to become Vajradhara. So, as we recite the mantras of these deities, this is the declaration of I am the deity. I am becoming the deity. Here is what the deity is. In this mantra, in each of these mantras, they're saying who they are, what their activity is. And I'm becoming more and more of that. The more that we do the practice, the more I become that. So it's body, speech, and mind. Om, ah, hum, all coming together, you see. These are human being practices to be able to perfect ourselves as a complete human being. To perfect our physical body, to perfect our intellectual mind, and our spiritual mind. So the mantras are very, very, very important, of course. So even if we have limited time, and we've been doing the deity yoga quite faithfully as a routine, but circumstances arise where we don't have as much time today, say, to do the whole practice, but I want to do the practice. So what we can do is we can do elements of the practice just to remind ourselves, to stabilize our thoughts, and do the mantra. The mantra is the most important part. So this is why we have our beads. This is why we wear our beads. This is why we put them around our neck. Maybe we put them in our pocket. Maybe we have a bracelet that we wear, something like this. We can slip that off, and while we have a few moments, we can be reciting the mantra. And if we've been faithful with this practice, if we've been developing this, we can just become the deity very, very, very quickly. And we can stay in that mindset, even if we're at work or we're on a bus or we're driving in a car or something like that. Maybe not while we're actually driving. You need to pay attention to the road. But if you're a passenger in the car, you can certainly do that. So if you have limited time, just to go right to the mantra can be a very powerful tool. And then comes the completion stage, or the dissolution stage, where everything all comes into light and dissolves into the deity, and the deity dissolves into our heart center with the seed syllable that is vibrating, comes into the seed syllable and becomes our heart, and then that all dissolves into the emptiness. It starts in the emptiness. When we do the first part of any of these practices, is to state something to the effect of, from out of the emptiness arises this seed syllable, this essence of the deity. Out of the emptiness, this arises. And then we create all this, we generate all this visualization, all this mental meaning and so on like that. and then we dissolve it back into the emptiness. This is the completion stage, the dissolution. And that's the meditation part. That's when we do the meditation. And then we come out of the meditation, and then we recognize ourselves again now as the deity. Now going about doing things in the phenomenal world as the deity as much as we can. And then we recite the dedication, which is extremely important because the dedication is for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings. We're not doing this selfishly. We're doing this altruistically for the benefit of all our brothers and sisters who are suffering in samsara. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Lance, I have a quick question about becoming the deity.
Yes.
And I think that, especially in the West, there's so much focus on, well, who am I and what's my name and what's my genealogy and what do I like to do and what are my hobbies, all this navel gazing. And am I correct that becoming the deity is a way to take us out of that selfishness, right? Out of that egocentrism to make us a more complete and effective and fulfilled human being. Am I getting that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, because our essence is the Tathagata. The essence is the Buddhas. That's our essence, our true nature. Yes. So our corrupted nature is our human nature.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Okay. So
Can I ask a quick question, Lance?
of course, please.
And I've kind of touched on this similarly a few times too, but one thing I'm struggling with some is like how I would incorporate this into my daily practice in a sense of like building up so many different practices. And I'm trying to stabilize like meditation practice in the morning, and I might do other reading and stuff, but like for like an hour a day meditation practice in the morning, which I think for me would be pretty solid and would be tough on any ongoing basis during the week to do more than that, just given like my time constraints. And so with like the, like the opening prayers, which, and, I've been doing the other kind of way that we were developing the practice and the structure with, the four thoughts and trying to meditate on kind of the four measurables or, like the compassion and equanimity and going through that and then doing some shamatha practice. For me, that's like kind of a full hour worth of practice doing all of that. So I'm not sure how to incorporate the deity yoga practices with that in a way that would be sustainable right for me right now, or whether I should be doing that or hold off on doing more of the deity practice. Do you have any advice on that?
Yes. Stabilize what you're doing now, because that's the foundation. Those are the most important elements.
Okay.
What we're doing on these Sundays is to expose you, to introduce you to these deities. So a crude way of saying this is the carrot, and we're trying to inspire each one of ourselves to do the stabilization practices in order to be able to get to these deity transformational practices. So it should be organic in the sense that it will become clear to you in your own terms, in your own time, when it is that you're ready to move to another step in this process. And maybe it happens that you're doing the stabilization foundational practices every day, but then maybe you find that on Saturday or Sunday or one day of the week that now I have time to do one of the deity yoga practices.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking maybe. Yeah, I think that could be a good structure idea. Yeah.
And then maybe, you do one at a time and maybe you say, oh, I really like this one. I'm going to stay with this one for a while. And it should be organic. It should feel natural to you. Shouldn't be forced. It should be very pleasant and so on like that. When you're ready to move to another one or increase it during the time that you're doing your weekly things and so on, that'll happen. as you are doing the foundational practices, the four thoughts and so on like that, it'll get to a point where you just need to kind of recite them, and immediately you are there. You don't have to contemplate it so much. You're just reciting it, going through it. Everything's just clicking into place. It's already in place. You're just increasing your mindfulness of it. You're kind of controlling the atmosphere, around you. You're not falling prey to all the corruptions and so on like that. And then you'll have more time to do the deity yoga practice at the end, because the foundational stuff now has become embodied within you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And if there is time, one more quick question. Can you say, like, or even give an example, maybe how you would do this? Like a practical example when you're saying with doing the deity yoga practice, like between practice sessions, or maybe just in general, when you're seeing the lack of purity coming up, or these thoughts to be able to eliminate it. How would you do that? Like if you're feeling some kind of jealousy, or whatever might be coming up, whatever, anger or something, how would you eliminate it in a moment like that?
Well, you got to go back to the very beginning when we talked about the 5 poisons, and we talked about the antidotes to the 5 poisons. So you have to identify those particular thoughts as poisons and say, okay, what is the antidote? So it's the decision block flow chart. If you come to a decision block and the answer is no, and there's a loop that goes right back to the beginning or someplace before that, and you got to put yourself back at that point, and you need to purify something. Does that make sense?
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Matt, like last night, this is pertinent to what you're saying, like just because I like to share, like connect. I'm dealing with something post my divorce. I was trying to open myself up to someone, and I found myself in a very bad way last night, and going to bed with very negative thoughts. And I wear my beads right here on my wrist, and I just started, like what Lance was just saying, like I just started repeating the mantra in that moment. I was so angry. I wanted to cry. I was trying to go to bed, and it was so disruptive. And like, I was like, you can chase the negative mind stream, or touch your bracelet and do what you're supposed to do right now. Like start reciting it right now. And it was crazy, Matt. It was immediately calming. Like after just seconds, it was like my spirit was like, this is hard. It's easy to chase the negativity, but come here, keep touching this, keep saying it. And I did it for 5 minutes. And so that's what I think you're getting at, right? A practical application, because I was very sad last night. And that goes back to what Lance is saying, like, what's the root cause of that sadness, right? And I know what it is. It's ego driven. And this was the antidote for me last night. I had to just touch this. And that's why I wear these at night, is to help me in that moment. And I start doing this. But I hope that's helpful to share, because that was my night last night. I was struggling and on the verge of crying, and we all understand this. So like it's practical from what I think you're trying to ask.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's like a replacement therapy. If our
You're right.
if our sense is that I'm suffering, and here's all the reasons I'm suffering, I'm going to replace that with my peace. I'm going to replace that with my loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and my mindfulness changes.
Lance, a quick comment that might be helpful to Matthew. Zara, that was awesome. I found that very helpful. Thank you for that. What you just said. Last night, this is kind of silly, but ordered some Thai food with my family, and they messed up the dumpling sauce. They sent the wrong one, and I said, "Oh, I said something uncharitable about whoever was prepping the food." And I'm thinking to myself, as soon as I said it, first of all, what would Lance say? Lance said something one time. I don't want to make this situation hurt my karma, right? Lance said something like that one time, and it's like, that's why I thought to myself, why am I letting something so silly affect my peace of mind and more importantly, my karma? But also, as a Buddhist, what kind of example am I setting for my kids when they hear me say something like that? So I don't know if that's helpful, Matthew, but that's how I deal with it anyways.
Cool, thanks.
It might have been a
Yeah,
new way to find a delicious way to enjoy the food too. A new delicious combination.
It might have been, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all
we should
very,
get some
very much.
WWLD stickers for our group. What would Lance do? Stickers or something?
Well, we'll replace that with the Buddha because sometimes lots of times I make mistakes. All right. If you've got your deity cards, so if you want to get out your green Torah and have that in front of you and keep that in your sight during the week or whatever, so that you can remind yourself of the practice of the deity. So we begin on page 45, either in the Deity Yoga book or the red book that I sent to you. So it's in there, this green Tara practice. So we see the image of green Tara, who is sitting on the lotus pedestal. We know the meaning of the lotus pedestal. If anybody does not know it or is foggy about it, let me know. This is our opportunity to purify our confusions.
Can you remind us, please, Lance?
The lotus flower, the lotus pedestal. The lotus represents purity. And the seed of the lotus flower comes from the bottom of a very slow moving pond or body of water. And in the bottom of this pond is nothing but mud and decomposing matter and muck and stuff that you would not want to take and rub over your body, least of all want to taste in your mouth or anything like that. So this seed is in that muck. And when the conditions are right, when the sunlight is right, when the nutrition is right, when the water temperature is right, and so on, that seed opens up and a sprout comes out. And the sprout comes all the way through the water, which is representative, symbolic of samsara, this muddy water, this dirty water. And the shoot, the stem goes all the way up through the top of through the surface of the water of the samsara out into the atmosphere. And it's there that the blossom of the flower of the lotus opens up in its purity form, unstained by any of the defilements that are being contained within the ocean of suffering itself. But it comes from that. It originates from that. So it's a metaphor for us being human beings. We come from this filth, we come from this confusion that we've created for ourselves, but through this process, we have sprouted the seed syllable, the seed that sprouts and comes up and into the open atmosphere, to the clear atmosphere, that we become this pure nature. We reveal our pure nature, the lotus flower. So all these deities are pictured as human beings. They're of course glorious human beings by the way of their appearance and the accoutrements that they're wearing and all that stuff and everything. But it is a human experience. So this human experience is being purified. And the epitome of that purification are these deities who are sitting on lotus pedestals. Does that make sense? Can you follow that? Okay. So then on top of the lotus pedestal is a moon disk, a white disk. So you can see, around the legs of green Tara here, you can see there's a white disk, and the white disk is the moon disk, the white moon disk, which represents compassion. On the other side of the moon disk is the sun disk. And the sun disk is yellow and it's very hot. And it represents wisdom, the wisdom fire, the wisdom heat. And the cooling is the compassion of that wisdom. The two are always together. we don't always see one disc, we don't always see both discs in the image. Sometimes the artist will include both of those, but it's always there. This is where I said that sometimes these things are implied. So it's always there. So the moon disc is the cooling, is the compassion. All these deities that we're looking at now, that we've looked at in the past few weeks, are peaceful deities. And they are all sitting on the white moon disk of compassion, the peaceful deities. And another characteristic of them is that they all have the almond-shaped eyes. So sometimes when we see statues that, they may not be painted, or if they have a color to them, maybe just all gold, or maybe they're made out of the epoxy or whatever materials that they make, or maybe it's carved from wood or something like that. And so all you see are the shapes, you don't see the colors. But by the shape of the eyes, you can see that the almond-shaped eyes are peaceful deities. The other side of that is the wrathful deities, or the fierce deities. We haven't spent much time talking about them, but they will be standing on the wisdom fire disc, the yellow disc. They will be standing. They are in great movement, as opposed to these peaceful deities that are seated on the moon disc. And also, the wrathful, fierce deities will have big, round eyes. Their eyes are big, round, So these are just some characteristics that I'm pointing out to you so that you can start making these connections with, the Sambhogagaya, with the artwork and so on. Because like I said, everything is interconnected, and the more points of interconnection we see, the more spiritual we come in this regard. So green Tara is sitting on the moon disk, which is reflective of the sun. The moon doesn't have any light of its own. The sun is generating light, is energy, and everything in its path is becoming luminous, is radiating that, or is reflecting that light. So the moon, in a sense, is doing the same. That's what the moon is doing. It's reflecting the sun's light. It's reflecting that wisdom as compassion. And another word for compassion would be method, or skillful means, how to actualize that wisdom. The wisdom's coming from the sun, from the wisdom disc, but it's being, the method of how it's applied is being done through the moon disc. Okay, so green Tara has an emerald green body, a beautiful green body, and she's wearing the headdress, and the headdress has the 5 jewels in it representing the 5 Buddha families, and she's wearing the necklaces and so on like that. So we don't have to go into a lot of detail with that. She's wearing the silken garments and so on of a Sambhogagaya deity. Her 2 hands, her right hand is in the giving mudra with a palm up like this at her right knee. And she's holding the stem of a lotus flower that is giving this purity. She's offering this purity. This is the giving mudra. She's offering that to all sentient beings, this purity, this lotus flower. In her left hand is in the protection mudra at her left shoulder like this. And she's holding here the stem of a lotus flower that is blossoming at her left ear, at her left side. And we receive through the left and we give through the right. So this purity from the lotus flower is coming in through the left, and the left comes in as closest to our heart. So that energy circles round our heart and then goes out through the right to help all beings. So that's the nature of green Tara, that she's receiving this purity, circles the heart, goes out through the right to help all beings. Another feature of green Tara, notice you can see it maybe better in this picture than you can in the picture that's in the book, but her right foot, you see that her right leg is extended on a cushion in front of her. The left leg is drawn in. Normally that would be the bodhisattva position where both legs are drawn in and seated like this where the soles are upward and so on like this. In this case, her left leg is drawn in, but the right leg is extended. Can you see that on the cushion? And what that represents is she's ready to jump up. She's ready to spring up to come to the rescue of all sentient beings. It's part of her nature. So on the back side of the card, here you can see that green Tara is the English name, Tara in Sanskrit, Droma in Tibetan. And she is the Buddha of protection or fearlessness. You could add that. And her mantra is Om Tari Tutare Ture Soha. And the seed syllable is Tam. So you can look on page, in the book that you've got, look on page 50, and you'll see there is a green Tam at the lower right-hand corner of that page. That's the seed syllable. So that's the syllable that is vibrating, this ancient syllable that is vibrating with this protection, fearlessness vibration to it. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Okay. So now we read the introduction on page 46. So I'll read it out loud and you please follow along. If you have questions, hold it for the end of the introduction and then we can talk about it. Shenrezig, who we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Bodhisattva of Compassion, Shenrezig is an emanation of Buddha Amitabha's compassion. And Tara is an emanation of his wisdom. Shenrezig cultivated indomitable courage to benefit all sentient beings until samsara was emptied. For limitless kalpas, he benefited sentient beings by bringing them to the state of liberation. However, the total number of sentient beings did not decrease. One day, he became exhausted, and tears came to his eyes. Being overwhelmed by the suffering of sentient beings, these two tears became Tara and Prakriti. Tara said to him, I will protect those who fear the suffering of samsara. Don't worry, I will protect them. Thus, she works together with Shenrezig to benefit sentient beings. Buddha Varanchana made the 21 verses of praise to Tara and taught many Tara Tantra teachings. She has countless manifestations with different numbers of faces and hands. Acharya Ashvagosha said, the body of Tara manifests in many forms, such as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, wrathful forms, peaceful forms, Umadeva, and so forth. Mamaki, Tara, Pantari, Buddha, Latsani, and so on, depending on the level of sentient beings. She is the basis of the manifestation of all female deities. In India, she manifested as Maya Devi, the mother of Buddha Shakyamuni, Gelong Ma Palmo, Lady Mandarara, and so on. In Tibet, she appeared as Dakini Yeshi Sogil, Machik Lobjan, Achi Choki Droma, and many of the abbesses of the Drikung Turdum nunnery. Just hearing her name with devotion frees one from the 8 or 16 fears. Practicing her meditation and reciting her mantra dispels all obstacles. One will be born in Dewa Chen, the Pure Land of Amitabha. So this introduction has many new things that we haven't talked about in here, and a few things that we have talked about. But this is so important, we need to spend time digesting this, understanding this. So if you're taking notes, either in the margins on the paper, or you have a separate sheet of paper or notebook or something like that, you might want to take notes, because this is the kind of thing that we come back to over and over and over again. And to get clarity on what all these things mean is all part of all these interconnection points. This is where, the Buddhism starts getting a little bit more, detailed. And it shouldn't be something that's frightful to you. It should be something that is very enjoyable to you. So if you just rather sit back and just try and absorb it, that's fine. But if you're trying to really fathom the meaning of this, taking notes is going to be indispensable. So let's start again at the beginning. Shenrezig is an emanation of Buddha Amitabha's compassion, and Tara is an emanation of his wisdom. So Shenrezig is a spiritual son of Buddha Amitabha. And Buddha Amitabha is one of the 5 heads of the 5 Buddha families. And he is symbolic of the wisdom of discriminating awareness. So we're going to talk about these 5 Buddha families in a few weeks. So we won't spend a lot of time, but the wisdom of discriminating awareness, what it is that we're going to focus on, making decisions about what we're going to focus on, the wisdom of discriminating awareness. Sometimes we need to marginalize something to be able to spend time on something else. But then sometimes we're not ready for this here, and we need to examine that which we would like to marginalize. We need to fix that up first. We need to understand that first. So the wisdom of knowing how to do that is the wisdom of Amitabha. So Shenrezig is one of his spiritual sons, one of his bodhisattvas. Manjushri is the other one. Manjushri is the bodhisattva of wisdom, and Shenrezig is the bodhisattva of compassion. Remember, wisdom and compassion, 2 sides of the same hand. You can't have one without the other. So Tara is the emanation of his wisdom. Now, Tara is the mother of all the Buddhas. There are so many different Buddhas, and there are so many different Taras who are consorts or mothers or partners, however you wish to express it. We all come from the wisdom body of the mother. The womb is symbolic of the lotus. When we talk about being born from the lotus, we're talking about being born from the womb of Tara. And all these Buddhas, you see, all are born from Tara. So there's many different forms of Tara, but they all represent the feminine wisdom aspect. So Tara is an emanation of his wisdom. Shenrezig, so his consort, Buddha Amitabha has a consort, Pandara Vasini is her name, and she is Tara. So all the female deities that we see in all the different iconography and all the different practices are all aspects of Tara, the concept of that feminine wisdom. Shenrezig cultivated indomitable courage to benefit all sentient beings until samsara was emptied, For limitless kalpas, he benefited sentient beings by bringing them to the state of liberation. So his mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, is the liberation mantra. It's Shen Reizei's liberation mantra. So this is the activity of that compassion to liberate all these beings. However, the total number of sentient beings did not decrease. So you can imagine the unhappiness that Shen Reizei was experiencing, because all this work that he's doing and the number of suffering beings hasn't lessened at all. So one day he becomes exhausted and he's starting to lose his patience, and tears are coming to his eyes. And being overwhelmed by the suffering, these two tears then become Tara. One becomes Tara as we know Tara, and the other one is Pracitce. Pracitce is is a Hindu deity who is there to help the physicality of beings who haven't yet reached the point of Buddha nature, haven't recognized Buddha nature. So Pracitce is helping those beings. But we're focused on Tara, green Tara in this case, because she says, I will protect those who fear the suffering of samsara. Don't worry, I will protect them. So what this is asking the question of is, why haven't these beings received and been able to act upon the liberation that Bodhisattva Shen Reizei is offering to them? Why haven't they accepted that? Well, they haven't accepted it because they have some degree of fear. Their minds are fixated on themselves, on their own ego, on their own survival. And they've marginalized their spirituality by pushing it away. So they haven't been able to accept the blessings of Shen Reizei. But Tara says, from the tears of Shen Reizei, says, I will help them. I will protect them, so that they will then have a moment of peace where they can recognize the liberation of Shen Reizei. I will protect those who fear the suffering of samsara. So what that means, they are totally absorbed in the suffering of samsara. They can't see anything else. So don't worry, I will protect them. Thus, she works with Shen Reizei to benefit sentient beings. So here's the mother saying, I'm going to bring wisdom to all these suffering beings who are not listening to my son, Shen Reizei, because she is in essence the mother of Shen Reizei. Is this making sense? Can you see where this is going? Okay. So now this next paragraph then gets a little bit more involved. It says Buddha Varanchana, who is the oldest of all these five Buddha families, the head of the five Buddha families, and he is symbolic of the all-pervading wisdom. All-pervading wisdom is Varanchana, Buddha Varanchana. And when we sit in the 7-point posture of Varanchana, the posture of meditation, when we talk about that, keeping our back straight, our legs folded, our hands at our navel, all that is Varanchana, because this is the fundamental teaching of the all-pervading wisdom, how to attain that all-pervading wisdom. So Buddha Varanchana made the 21 verses of praise to Tara. So he visualized these 21 forms of Tara. And it's a very famous painting that you can see and so on. And if you Google it, you'll find it If you like, I can send you pictures of it and so on. But it's got all these different Taras. There's many more Taras than those 21, but he identified those 21. Taught the Tara Tantra teachings. He has countless manifestations. She has countless manifestations with different numbers of faces and hands. So she has all these different appearances and all these different applications, implements in which to actualize this wisdom. So it's Acharya Ashvagosha said the body of Tara manifests in many forms, such as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, wrathful forms, peaceful forms. So it's out of the Hindu tradition. So these Hindu gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are the heads of the Hindu. So all this, comes out of that. All these wrathful forms, the peaceful forms, so all these different forms. And then Umadeva and so forth, Mamaki, Tara, Pandari, Buddha, Latsani, and so on. So these are the consorts to the 5 Buddha heads of the 5 Buddha families. So you can see, we'll go into more detail with this later, but all these different female forms, is being said, are all Tara. And so on, depending on the level of sentient beings. So there's no point in our talking about some of these high things right now, because you need to have the foundational stuff before we can start talking about that more advanced stuff. It's not anything against anybody's intelligence or anything like that. It's a matter of experience. So you need to experience the fundamentals and stabilize the fundamentals before we can go to the more advanced stuff. And I'm sure you appreciate that. But we'll get there if you want to. She is the basis of the manifestation of all female deities. In India, she manifested as Maya Devi, the mother of Buddha Shakyamuni. The mother of Buddha Shakyamuni was Maya Devi. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow night, because we're talking about the life story of the Buddha in our session of Buddha Study 101. Gelongma Palmo. She is a great Dakini mother who gave us great practice, the Nyungne practice. And Lady Mandarara is Padmasambhava's, one of Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche's many consorts. He had many consorts and so forth. In Tibet, she appeared as Dakini Yeshi Sogyal, who was another of Padmasambhava's consorts. Machik Lobjung, and who is the Chud, who devised the Chud practice. And Achichoki Joma, who is the great-grandmother, the grandmother of Lord Jigdan Sumgun, who is a great clarifier of obstacles, and many of the abbesses of the Drikung Turdom nunnery. So the Drikung tradition, our tradition, has famously many great nunneries. And so she represents the abbess of all those nunneries. Just hearing her name with devotion frees one from the 8 or 16 fears. Practicing her meditation and reciting her mantra dispels all obstacles. One will be born in Dewachen, the pure land of Buddha Amitabha. So just hearing her name with devotion frees one from the 8 or 16 fears. So what are the 8 fears? The 8 fears go back to ancient times, because in ancient times, people could every single day die as a result of these fears. We still have those fears within us, although the likelihood of our being killed by these is much more remote because of our civilization and so on. But nevertheless, we still have these fears. They're still there. So what are the fears? You might want to write these down. These are the 8 outer fears. The first one is the fear of death by lions, being eaten alive by a lion. The next one is being crushed to death by elephants, the fear of elephants. The next one after that is fire, being burned alive by fire. The one after that is snakes, to be bitten and poisoned or crushed to death by a big python that crushes its prey, or biting and the poison taking over our bodies and killing us by snakes. The next one is robbers, to be subjected to the thievery of being accosted by robbers who are stealing our possessions, our money, our wealth, our family, maybe stealing away our children or our wives or husbands or something, those who are taking that which is not given to them. The next is imprisonment, the fear of imprisonment, not to be incarcerated for any reason. Even if we may have deserved it, we still don't want to be in prison. But least of all, do we want to be in prison because of political differences or something like that, where some people deem that we're dangerous and locking us up for the very things that we just think about, or we're trying to help other beings or something. So imprisonment. And then the seventh is the fear of water, of drowning in water. And the last one, the eighth one, is the fear of demons, being possessed by demons. And we know that those demons are within ourselves. We know that we can become possessed and lose our ability to be able to control ourselves because of this possession of these demons, which are our emotions that have just run out of control. So the fear of demons, of being controlled by those emotions within ourselves that we call demons. So those are the 8 fears, the 8 outer fears. Anybody having a question about them? Can everybody relate to them? Have you one time or another in your life thought about all of these? The fear of drowning, the fear of fire, the fear of snakes, all these things. Okay. So the 16 fears now are the 8 fears together with the 8 inner fears. So the 8 inner fears now is the first one that coincides with the lions, the outer fear, is the fear of pride. That we recognize that we have these 5 poisons, the 5 gross poisons we talk about that become the causes for our emotions, the causes of our suffering, etc., and so on. So pride is one of those things. And we talk about the pridefulness of lions, how stately they are, the king of the animals, etc. So the fear of pride. The next one is the fear of ignorance, which coincides with the elephants, the ignorance. Now, I know that many people would say that elephants are very intelligent, they have great memory and so on like that. But nevertheless, they are, massive animals. They represent this, or the essence of their inner fear is their ignorance, is the symbology behind that. The next one is anger, the fear of anger, which coincides with the fire, the anger of fire. Have you ever seen a big raging fire out of control? It's like it's angry. If you haven't seen it firsthand, maybe you've seen it on television when you see these terrible forest fires that, become so routine. It's like and the firefighters will tell you, it like takes on a life of its own. They're like angry. And then jealousy is the next one, is Snakes goes along with the snakes, the jealousy, the aggressiveness of the snakes is like a jealousy. It's laying dormant, it's laying dormant, it's laying dormant. And then all of a sudden it reaches a critical threshold and then bang, it just lashes out, with this great, expression of jealousy. And then the next one is wrong view, which goes along with the robbers, the wrong view. So what is the wrong view? Here is a perfect time to talk about wrong view. What is wrong view? There's 3 elements to wrong view. The first element is not accepting the 3 jewels. The 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. The mind of the Buddha, the speech of the Buddha, and the body of the Buddha. Not accepting that we have within ourselves these spiritual 3 jewels that are parallel to our physical body, speech, and mind. So not accepting that is a wrong view. Oh, I'm not a spiritual person. That doesn't exist. I'm a nihilist. I'm an atheist, whatever, I don't believe in anything. It's all just random chaos. The next of the wrong views is not accepting the natural law of karma, cause and result. Not accepting that. The wrong view of not accepting that. Oh, I can't see it. I can't weigh it. It doesn't exist. I can do anything I want with impunity. There is no reciprocity for anything that I do, at least that which I can run away from. If I go and rape my friend's sister, he's not going to come after me. Or if he does, I can run away from him. And that's it. I just have to escape him. But that there is this reciprocity that happens that maybe I'm born again as a woman, or maybe I wind up in jail and some guy named Otto winds up raping me. So this law of reciprocity, this natural law of karma, cause and result, does not exist, is a wrong view. So we've talked a fair amount about this. If anybody has a question, we could talk more about it. But I think, we've given cause for everyone to be thinking about the view of karma, cause, and result. And the third is, if after following the Eightfold Path, the Eightfold Path we've talked about many times, the 4th truth of the 4 Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path is the path to the cessation of suffering, the cause of suffering. Everybody remember that? So if after being exposed to that, after being given the wisdom of that, and not accepting that cessation is possible, even with that, even with the Eightfold Path, even with recognizing that cessation isn't possible. We're just locked into this ocean of suffering, and there's no way to get out, is a wrong view. So these are the 3 wrong views. Okay, so that was the inner fear of, that was the the 6th inner fear of Tara. So now we come back to the next inner fear, which is the 7th one, is stinginess. So the stinginess goes along with imprisonment, keeping us from being able to openly enjoy life, being stingy, pulling back, suppressing, stinginess. not sharing what it is that you have, imprisoning others, imprisoning your own accomplishments. And the next one after that is the seventh one. Oh, stinginess was the sixth one, excuse me. So desire is the seventh one. Desire is the seventh one, the inner fear of desire. And that goes along with water, drowning, like a desire, being desired, drowning in our own desire. So the desire of the lustfulness, of the passion. So the fear of desire. And then the last one is, the eighth, is doubt. Doubt of the demons. The demons, these inner demons, these inner causes of our emotions, and the doubts that allow that to manifest. I doubt that I can do this. I doubt that I can do that. And so it's these doubts that become these confusions that we have. So these are the 16 fears altogether. So this is food for meditation. What I have given is a very, empirical, very, straightforward, not a whole lot of detail. This has to be experienced. You got to think about this. You got to contemplate this in your own terms, how you've experienced this. And maybe how your family has experienced it, how your children come to you and say, "Oh, mommy, daddy, what is this? What is this? I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that." And you can see these things coming alive in your life by way of your children and so on like that. And coming to deal with it in human terms. So it says, just hearing her name with devotion frees one from the 8 or 16 fears. So after we make a study of this, after we contemplate this, after we have some breakthrough of critical thinking about what these 16 fears are, and it becomes to some degree stable in our psyche, in our conscience, then when the situation arises, when we're being challenged, all we need to do is hold on to the bracelet, hold on to our necklace, hold on to our beads, hearing the name of Tara, and immediately all that is dispelled. The mnemonic of these things just comes right back to us. Just hearing the name. Just, oh, yes. I forgot for a moment, but now I remember. Yes, that's where I am. So then the next line says, practicing her meditation and reciting her mantra dispels all obstacles. So we'll get to the mantra in just a minute. One will be born in Dewa Chen. Dewa Chen is the Buddha field of Buddha Amitabha, Dewa Chen, also called Sukhavati. So you've probably seen that when we recite the brief prayer to be reborn in Sukhavati. That Sukhavati is the Sanskrit name, and Dewa Chen is the Tibetan name of the Buddha field of Amitabha, and therefore the Buddha field of Shenrezig and Manjushri, because they are the spiritual sons of Amitabha. So this is the pure land of Buddha Amitabha, is the next phrase of that sentence. So like I said, we will talk about the 5 Buddha families, this image here. You may have an image of that. We'll talk about that in coming Sundays. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this introduction?
So, Lance, thank you. Thank you so much, first of all. Like, that was beautiful and very in detail and helpful. So this is really great because this augments some of the information from the transformation of suffering, which I think this particular practice is in the appendix. So when you went over all of the suffering components, those are the things that this deity practice specifically is touching on for this particular pipeline as we go forth and really understand this as we're conceptualizing it. Is that right?
Yes.
For white Tara. Okay. Okay. I have a
This is green
graphic.
Tara. This is green
I'm
Tara.
sorry. I know that. I'm looking at, I've got it in front of me. I'm on my book, my white book. I'm just writing notes. Okay. I'm writing a graphic for myself so I can, because I think one of the things, I think about an hour ago, someone was like talking about the word deity and God and trying to understand like this is always within each of us. And so I'm trying to put these sort of visuals for myself to help, like kind of like last night, like what I'm tapping into intentionally in that moment. So I'm trying to organize them into like learning clusters. Thank you.
All right, two things I want to make a point, then we're going to take a break. If we replace the word deity instead of deity, because it does create a question in our minds, because we've all been raised, I think, you know, to associate a deity with a god. And these are not gods, but these are enlightened ones. So if we were to place the word deity in all these cases in the Buddhism with enlightened ones, now it kind of purifies the notion of what it is. All the enlightened ones, instead of saying deity. So instead of saying deity yoga, we say enlightened ones union. Would be that we're aligning ourselves, we are coming in union with the enlightened ones. The second thing is, we've seen that there's many different Taras, examples of Tara. And the one that is, the two that are most well known is green Tara and white Tara. So I just want to make a distinction between those two because it's important. We'll get to that as we get into the text a little bit later. But green Tara is the youthful Tara. And she's usually, you know, nude. You know, she's got some silks and everything, but her breasts are revealed and so on. And she's youthful. She's 16 years old. And the way I've always thought about the green Tara is she's the woman, she's the young girl who goes up to the military men who are all lined up with their rifles and their bayonets exposed. And she takes a flower and she puts it down the muzzle of the rifles. Fearlessly, she goes up and puts that flower in the muzzle of the military men who are standing there. And back in our day, you know, in the 1960s, 1970s, when there was a whole lot of you know, civil unrest that was going on. You think there's civil unrest now, but back in those days, we thought there was going to be revolution like every day, you know, on the college campuses and so on. And it was not unusual for somebody to go up to these National Guardsmen that were all lined up with loaded rifles. And if you remember, they killed, you know, what was it, 5 people at Kent State. And they would put flowers in the muzzles of the rifles and so on. So this is fearlessness, you know. So green Tara always means to me these peaceful hippie chicks. Excuse me for being whatever I am, but it's that youthfulness, it's that bravado, it's that love, it's that fearlessness to be able to face down, you know, the opposition in that way, like a 16-year-old hippie chick, to be able to do that. On the other side of this is white Tara. White Tara is very matronly, and she's got silks and she's covered up her body. You can see that she has a white body, but she's covered up, more modest, and so on. And she has the representation, the symbolization of that mother aspect, of the mature Tara. So that's a fundamental difference between white Tara and green Tara. Green Tara is the youthful 16-year-old. White Tara is the mother, the matronly mother aspect, the higher wisdom, the deeper wisdom of the Tara, of the mother. So I just point that out. Okay, so why don't we take a break, come back at in 20 minutes at 11 o'clock, and 11 o'clock our time here, so top of the hour. We're not going to be able to get through this whole thing and do the practice and have all the explanation. So what I would like to do well, let's try it. I think we can get through a little bit of it. We won't have a long meditation. And then what I would do is that next week, we will continue where we leave off with green Tara. We'll have more explanation and we will have more practice. Because this is so fundamental. This is so important to be able to really have an experience with this. Is why we're doing this in the first place. So I don't want to shortchange this. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. So Lance, just to confirm, you want us to come back at 11 and you're going to continue with explanation, and then you'll try to do practice if time allows.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of practice. We'll get a little bit in, but we'll get through the explanation as much as possible.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you in a few minutes. All right, so we're back again. Does anybody have any questions now that you thought of during the break?
Lance, thank you for that allegory about the girl with the flowers and the bayonets. There's probably nothing on earth that's more courageous and idealistic than a college-age woman. So I think that was a great, I don't mean to generalize, but I see what you're talking about. That's what I meant. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
A
I
question.
remember the picture
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
vividly.
It was probably on Life magazine or Time magazine, something like that.
I remember the whole thing, yes.
I'm sorry, Brendan, I cut you off. What were you
Oh,
saying?
no problem at all. Yeah, I was born in 72, but I read a lot about that era. And I know that was a matter of life and death for young men that were in college at the time. So,
Yeah.
but I'm digressing. And for the Vietnamese people, of course, but now I'm going way off track. So my question is this, reading, let me put my reading glasses on. Being overwhelmed by the suffering of sentient beings, these two tiers became Tara and Pracitce. Okay. Tara said to him, I will protect those who fear the suffering of samsara. Don't worry, I'll protect them. So the Western rationalist mind says, oh, that's a nice story, prove it. And that, for a lot of reasons, is something we're trying to fight against or guard against, that kind of reasoning I just explained. My question is, Lance, you have talked about non-conceptualization. And does the objection I just raised, does that relate in any way to non-conceptualization? And if it does, could you explain it, please?
What we are fearful of is conceptualization.
Okay.
So if we can recognize that all this is contrived in the mind, all this conceptualization, and if we can abide in non-conceptualization, then you just liberated yourself.
Okay. And everything's the mind, right? The mind is more powerful and amazing than we could ever imagine, but everything ultimately is the mind.
Well, everything that we experience as human beings is mind, yes. But as we are able to transcend our human nature to our true nature, which is beyond being a human being, then there's no mind. That which we call mind.
Thank you.
And that's a difficult thing for people to understand intellectually. We don't want to give up the mind. That's how that's our touch with reality. We give that up, we're going to know reality and we're losing our mind. But yet that's where the liberation is. Because it's the human mind that has created all this suffering. Does that make sense? Can you see where I'm going with that? Okay. All right, welcome back, Karina and Gavin. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we'll see how far we can get with this practice here. So we begin again on page 46 at the end of the introduction, where it has these italics. So we need to know what everything is being said here. So it says Om Svasti, the embodiment of all the victorious one's activities, the great mother of the Buddhas of the three times, the supreme object of hope for the beings of this degenerate times, I surrender to the Noble One. Please grant the ordinary and extraordinary achievements. And in an appropriate place in front of an image of Tara, perform all the offerings that you can arrange. Sit in a comfortable place with a relaxed mind. Establish the mind in the four foundations. Take refuge, cultivate bodhicitta, and engage in deity yoga. So I want to go over this because so Om Shravasti, Om, the holy body, speech, and mind. Shravasti is the symbol of this pure nature, the embodiment of the victorious one's activities. The victorious one is the Buddha. So in all the different names and types of the Buddha, the victorious one is the Buddha that resides within ourselves, although it may be blocked up and we're trying to unblock it. The great mother of the Buddhas of the three times. So this is the Taras, the great mothers of the Buddhas of the three times, all the Taras. The supreme object of hope for the being of these degenerate times. So holding out that for those who can be liberated in these degenerate times, for this we're making these practices. I surrender to the Noble One. So the Noble One would be the teacher, the guru, within ourselves. I surrender to the Noble One. Please grant the ordinary and extraordinary achievements, to grant ourselves this gnosis, to grant ourselves these experiences, these experiential realizations. Please grant me the ordinary and extraordinary achievements in an appropriate place in front of Tara. Perform the offerings that you can arrange, and so on. Please sit in a comfortable place in a relaxed mind. So the 7-point posture of Varanchana. Establish the mind in the four foundations, the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. You see that this is a repeating thing. This is part of the process. We do the opening prayers, we set our motivation, then we establish the four foundations, the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, and then the stages of meditation. We take refuge, we cultivate bodhicitta, and engage in deity yoga. So this is what we're doing. So all the practices that we've been doing up to this point that we've been talking about, you see are being mentioned in this preparation part of doing the practice. So now we come to refuge and cultivation of bodhicitta. To the assembly of the Bhagavati deities, the embodiment of the triple gem, I and others take refuge until enlightenment is achieved. In order to protect all sentient beings from the fears of samsara, I cultivate, the two types of bodhicitta. To the assembly of the Bhagavati deities, the embodiment of the triple gem, I and others take refuge until enlightenment is achieved. In order to protect all sentient beings from the fears of samsara, I cultivate the two types of bodhicitta. The two types of bodhicitta are absolute and relative. There's relative truth, there is absolute truth. The relative truth of phenomena. We say that all this seems to exist. All this seems to be permanent, but it is relative. It is temporary. So we have relative bodhicitta for that, for understanding that. We have compassion for this. We have wisdom for this. We say, yes, it exists, but it temporarily exists. That's wisdom. And then compassion is that we have a practice in order to be able to release the attachment to that apparent permanence, to release to the impermanence, to let go. And that is the absolute reality. That is the absolute bodhicitta, the bodhicitta that for all beings, all things, is loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, which is just simply practicing in emptiness, being able to practice in the emptiness of this of phenomenal nature as absolute nature. So that has to be experienced. Once again, to the assembly of the Bhagavati deities. So the Bhagavati deities are these holy beings, these Buddhas, these holy enlightened ones, these Buddha enlightened ones, Bhagavati deities, the embodiment of the triple gem, the body, speech, and mind. I and others take refuge until enlightenment is achieved. In order to protect all sentient beings from the fears of samsara, I cultivate the two types of bodhicitta. So then we could do prostrations while we do this, while we recite this as an expression of our refuge. So now comes the meditation on emptiness. I said at the very beginning of this that all these practices come out of emptiness. They arise out of emptiness. So here it is being stated. This is the emptiness. This is coming out of. It says, Om Shanyata Jana Bhajra Sobhava Atmakyo Koham. I am born into the emptiness wisdom. I am born into the emptiness wisdom. Om Shanyata Jana Bhajra Sobhava Atma Koham. I am born into the emptiness wisdom. All the phenomena of grasping and fixation dissolve into emptiness. The vast protections manifest from that emptiness. We'll say that again. All the phenomena of grasping and fixation dissolve into emptiness. The vast protections manifest from that emptiness. At the center are a lotus and moon disk. On that is a green tom syllable, the nature of my awareness. The nature of my awareness, the seed syllable, is the protection of the Dharma, the protection of the practice, the protection of the Tantra, the protection of the liberation. Light radiates and purifies the obscuration of all sentient beings. It then makes offerings to all the Buddhas and returns. So we can visualize that the Buddha, green Tara, is above and in front of ourselves, so that we can visualize that from our heart, from the seed syllable, the light is going up to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. From the heart of Buddha Tara, then all that light from all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is coming back into our heart center, where we can visualize that it all starts here. And then, so like the diamond nature that has all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are all facets of this. All the light comes from the center of the diamond, going to all those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, comes back to the center of the diamond. It then makes offerings to all the Buddhas and returns. I become Tara with one face and two arms in the giving mudra, holding a green lotus. My two legs are in the half lotus posture with a dignified, youthful form, blue-green in color, wearing silken robes and jewel ornaments, radiating light in the Sambhogagaya form. So the Sambhogagaya form are all the necklaces, wearing the silk robes, the tiara, and the leggings, and so on like that. So in other practices, we can go into more detail with that. Light manifests in all directions from the three syllables in the three places. So light manifests in all directions from the three syllables in the three places. So the Om, the white Om at the forehead of Tara, and at our three places from our forehead, Om, the body. The red Ah is the speech of Tara, my speech. And then the Hung at my heart center, at Tara's heart center, blue. So white, red, blue. Om, Ah, Hung, body, speech, mind. Sangha, Sangha, Dharma, Buddha. Bringing all the Buddha's wisdom, compassion, and activities which dissolve into me, I become the embodiment of the Sugatas of the three times. So here so wisdom would be at the heart, the compassion would be at the throat, and the activities would be the body. So that's another way of expressing the three jewels. I become the embodiment of the Sugatas of the three times. The three times are the are the past, present, and future. And the Sugatas are the well-gone ones, the well-gone ones. The Tathagatas are the thus gone ones. They're both interchangeable. They're referring to those who have been bodhisattvas and who have transcended being bodhisattvas, being human beings, to becoming Buddha. So the well-gone ones that now, they gracefully have now become Buddhas. The thus gone ones is that through these practices, through these transformations, that they have become Buddhas. So awakened ones, meaning the same thing. Tathagata and Sugata meaning the same thing. So now we're making offerings. So we've done these several times before. So we're gathering the blessings, right? Everybody remember this? We're gathering the blessings. Do I need to explain this to anybody? If you're not sure, just speak up. I'll be more than glad to explain it. So we're gathering the blessings. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are in our heart center. So we're visualizing these all coming together. We're gathering the blessings. And we recite Om, Arya, Tare, Sapariwara, Argam, Pratitsa, Soha. So Argam is the drinking water. Padyam is the washing water. Pushpam are the flowers. Dupam is the incense. Alokam is the light. Gande is the scented water, the perfume. Nuitea is the food. And Shabda is the music, the rejoicing. In the first line of this offering, it says, Om Ayatare Ta Sapariwara. That ta, that word ta, doesn't belong there. If you can just cross it out or something, it doesn't belong there. That's a typo. It should be Om Ayatare Sapariwara, Argam Pratitsa Soha. So that syllable ta, that first ta, doesn't belong in the mantra. Okay, so we're gathering the blessings. we're making the offering. We're offering the whatever it is, the water, etc., and then we're making the offering. We're making the offering, and our hands, our wrists are facing our heart like this. The left hand is in towards the heart, and the right hand is crossing the wrist of the left hand like this, and it's both coming inside like this. Okay, it's an important feature to remember. And then we're making the offerings, and then soha, so be it, may it be accomplished. There we go. Amaya Teresa Parivara Argam Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Padyam Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Pushpam Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Dupam Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Alokam Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Gande Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Nuitaya Pracitce Soha. Amaya Teresa Parivara Shapta Pracitce Soha. Okay. So if you don't have the melody, you can just recite it as a chant. Om Ayatare Saparivara Argam Pracitce Soha. Om Ayatare Saparivara Padyam Pracitce Soha. Om Ayatare Saparivara Pushpam Pracitce Soha. Om Ayatare Saparivara Dupam Pracitce Soha. Om Ayatare Saparivara Alokam Pracitce Soha. Om Ayatare Saparivara Nuitaya Pracitce Soha. Om Ayatare Saparivara Shapta Pracitce Soha. Sorry, I lost my place there. But you see the point. You don't have to do the melody. You can do it as a chant. The point is to engage in it. The more you do it, the more familiar you become with it, and the more natural it becomes. And it's easy to memorize once you get it. So all the offerings throughout all these different deity yoga or enlightened one union practices is basically the same. The names change, but the offerings are the same. So it's a mindfulness practice. We're developing mindfulness. Okay, so now comes the praise. So now we're praising the deity. We're praising the enlightened one. So it says, the crowns of gods and demigods pay homage to your lotus feet. So this is how powerful this is, that we talked about the 6 human realms, and the God realm, the Deva realm, and the demigod realm were, the parts of the highest realms, the upper realms. So even these gods and demigods are paying homage to the enlightened ones who liberate from all unfavorable conditions. I praise and prostrate to Mother Tara. So then we ring the bell, and the bell represents the feminine wisdom. The bell represents feminine wisdom. And the Vajra represents masculine, skillful means. So the two go together. You can't have one without the other and have it be realized, have it be perfectly realized. So We're taking the wisdom of the mother together with the skillful means of the father and making offering to them, so praising them. So we adopt this position like that. Now the mantra recitation. It says, on a moon disk at the heart level is a tom syllable surrounded by the mantra, radiating light to all the Buddhas, bringing back the blessings that dissolve into me, revealing the inseparability of appearance and emptiness, the nature of infinite qualities of all Buddhas. So we're visualizing that the deity is within us at the heart center. If you want to start up here, start on the top of the head, bring it down here. Ultimately, we want it to be at our heart center. But we don't want to be so arrogant to think that it starts here without being up here first. And so it's a process, and we need to allow ourselves to engage and enjoy the process of purification. So after a time, we'll be able to visualize this right here at the very beginning because we will have stabilized that. Nevertheless, on a moon disk at the heart level is the tom syllable. So you see the tom syllable at the bottom right of this page, 50, surrounded by the mantra. So the tom syllable represents purification and protection. So generally, it's protection through purification. Purification of our wisdom, purification of our practice, of our method, of our skillful means is what we're purifying. So we're removing any contaminations, any obstructions, and so on, any preconceived ideas, any notions, and that becomes the way in which that's the protection. Because once we have that pure essence of that purification, then that becomes our protection. So all the Buddhas bringing back the blessings that dissolve into me, revealing the inseparability of appearance and emptiness, the nature of infinite qualities of all the Buddhas, revealing the inseparability of appearance and emptiness. This line here. Revealing the appearance and emptiness. So the appearances are in our mind. This is the mind display. The mind is fabricating all these things, all these compounded things that we see, that we hear, that we feel, that we can taste or smell. All these things, we're saying that these appearances mean this, that, or the other thing. But it's all in emptiness. It's all phenomenal nature. We're creating this. We agree on these things. We're taught that these certain things, we look at something and we say, oh, this means something that our mother told us. And then our brother believes the same thing. Our sister believes the same thing. We go to school, they all believe the same thing. So everything that all these appearances become conventional. We agree that we're going to agree that this is a table. We're going to agree that this is a bell. We're going to agree on all these things, but it's just a fabrication of our mind that we can communicate with ourselves and with each other. But in essence, they're all empty. They're all compounded things. So this is the inseparability of appearance and emptiness. That what appears to us is actually empty of its own nature. So this is a huge wisdom. This is understanding emptiness. The nature of infinite qualities of all Buddhas. The nature, so it says, all the Buddhas bringing back the blessings that dissolve into me, revealing the inseparability of appearance and emptiness, the nature of infinite qualities of all Buddhas. So these qualities of the Buddhas are non-conceptual. So they arise out of the emptiness and have these appearances because we give them that. But the essence of it is it's beyond our conception. So it's relative. So the Sambhogagaya, you see, these deities are Sambhogagaya meditational deities. We're generating them as a means to be able to replace our confusion. And ultimately, we let go of the Sambhogagaya. The Sambhogagaya is the display of the Dharmakaya. It's the Dharmakaya that we're trying to get to. But by the blessing of the Dharmakaya, we have the Sambhogagaya and the Nirmanakaya, but they are servants to the Dharmakaya. So this is very subtle, requires contemplation and meditation and experience to be able to recognize that over and over again. And it becomes stable in our being. We become the embodiment of that Dharmakaya. Then again, infinite light radiates from the mantra, transforms all outer phenomena into Dewa Chen, all beings into Tar's form, all reciting secret mantra. So infinite light radiates from the mantra. So we're saying the mantra, Om Tare Tu Tare Tore Soha. So Om is the enlightened body, speech, and mind of Tara. So that's the meaning of the Om, which is the first syllable or first word of these mantras. All these mantras have the Om that begin. So it says Om. This is the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the deity. So Om is 3 syllables. A, O, Ma. A, U, Ma. A, U, Ma. Aum. A, U, Ma. Aum. Sometimes you'll see it spelled A-U-M. A-U-Ma, A-U-Ma, Aum. So what the Om means, the body, speech, and mind. The Om would be the body, the A would be the speech, and the Ma would be the heart center. So Aum, the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the deity. Tare is the one who liberates. Tare, the one who liberates. Tutare means tutare means from the great fears, who liberates from great fears. So we went over the 8 fears and the 16 fears. So the one who liberates from the great fears. Then Ture is and free from sickness and disease. Free from sickness and disease. So this is the purification. Because we can have a disease of our emotions, an illness of our emotions. We can have a physical, and the physical can be the result of that emotions and so on. So as part of this is the purification of those illnesses, psychosomatic illnesses, body, speech, and mind illnesses, etc. So freedom from sickness and disease. And then Soha means so be it, may it be accomplished, so be it. Om Tare Tu Tare Soha. All infinite light radiates from the mantra. So coming from the mantra, so each of these syllables, are the blue-green, the emerald green, or the marine green, whatever green you wish. You can see it in the picture. This kind of a dark green color from Tara. Each of these syllables are radiating this green light. So first it goes to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then that are within our heart center, then the blessings from their hearts then come back into the Tam syllable and charge up that Tam syllable. It's like electricity, charging it up. And then that syllable then is going to the syllables of the mantra that's circling around clockwise and increasing the power of that. And then that light is then going out to all sentient beings, seeing all sentient beings as Tara. That this light goes out, and through that, we're seeing all beings as being Tara. This is how we transform ourselves. This is how we transform everything that we see into the Buddha field. It's not that we are sending this light out and then all of a sudden something magical is going to happen. We're sending this light, and we view this as at least the potential that all these beings have become Tara. At least as the potential, if not the reality, that they have become Tara. We see all things as the same. This is the quality of the Buddhas. We see all things as the same. We see all things as Buddha, all phenomenal nature as Buddha, as the display of Buddha. So the practice is to do this over and over and over again, to stabilize this view over and over and over again. And we become the embodiment of that. It becomes the absolute nature, the absolute bodhicitta. We see everything as the same. So it says, again, infinite light radiates from the mantra and transforms all outer phenomena into Dewa Chen, the Buddha field of Dewa Chen, all beings into Tara's form, and reciting the secret mantra. And that all these beings are reciting the secret mantra at the same time. Everybody's vibrating. We are vibrating. Everything is vibrating. All inanimate objects are vibrating. Everything is vibrating. And if we can allow ourselves to transcend from all the obstructions that are forcing our attention into these mundane things, we can see this vibration. We can recognize this vibration that we are all part of. And that all this is reciting the mantra. So the mantra is vibrating this mantra. It's also vibrating Om Mani Padme Hum. It's vibrating all these mantras. Whichever deity that we're tuning into, whatever radio station that we're tuning into, all these vibrations, you say. And the difference of these radio stations, these different of these vibrations, are the activities. So in Chenrezig, it's compassion. In Manjushri, it's wisdom. In Green Tara, it's protection and liberation. It's purification and protection. We're tuning into that station. Okay, so then we recite this mantra. So if you've got your beads, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, 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 Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. So there's not a lot to this. There are a few more sophisticated mantras, but for our purpose right now, it's not necessary. We just do this chant with a little bit of a singiness to it. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Remember, it's like bees circling the beehive. There's that buzzing. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. You can feel it in the back of your throat. You can feel it in your sinuses. You can feel it in your body. You can feel that vibration, that humming, that sound. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. The detail of the articulation of the syllables. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. We can hear that, but that's that vibration that we're also feeling at the same time. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. Dare tu dare tu re so ha. Dare tu dare tu re so ha. Dare tu dare tu re so ha. Not too fast, not too slow. It's important to hear every syllable. As we start off, we're starting very, very purposefully and very, very definitely. Each syllable you can hear. As we get more proficient at it, we can do it faster, but we still have to hear each syllable. Some people will recite it in a way that you can't hear each syllable. And but we're taught that the proper way to do it is to hear each syllable, let each syllable vibrate. Dare tu dare tu re so ha. Dare tu dare tu re so ha. And tune into the meaning. If you haven't written it down, you should write it down. So you get, you begin to recite the mantra very automatically. You don't have to think about reciting each syllable, but then you think about the meaning of each syllable. Om, the body, speech, and mind of the enlightened one, the one who liberates from great fears and brings freedom from sickness and disease. So be it. Om Dare Tu Dare Tu Re So Ha. 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 So we'll complete the mile around to do this. So focus on this. Om Dare Tu Dare Tu Re So Ha. 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 Om Dore Tutare Dore Soha. Okay. So that was just one mile around. This is a short mile around mantra. We could do this 3 mile arounds, 5 mile arounds, 7 mile arounds very easily. We give ourselves the time to do it. And more power is being built up, more charge is being built up, more blessings are going out, more visualization gets deeper, more profound. So now we make the offerings again. But the difference is now we are making the offerings to all the Taras that are out there. First, we were doing the offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that were within ourselves. Now we've generated this Buddha field of all being Tara. So now we're making the same offering blessings to all those. So we say, Om Ayatare Sapare Vara Argam Pratitsa Soha. So our hands now are facing outward. And we're clicking our fingers, making this is the offering, Pratitsa. I make this offering to you. Om Ayatare Sapare Var Padyam Pratitsa Soha. Om Ayatare Sapare Var Pushpam Pratitsa Soha. Om Ayatare Sapare Var Dupam Pratitsa Soha. Om Ayatare Sapare Var Alokam Pratitsa Soha. Om Ayatare Sapare Vara Gande Pratitsa Soha. Om Ayatare Sapare Vara Nuitea Pratitsa Soha. Om Ayatare Sapare Vara Shapta Pratitsa Soha. So we are rejoicing with the bell and the dorje. We're rejoicing the wisdom and the compassion. At the same time, we're using the Damaru, and the Damaru is calling all the enlightened Dharma protectors and all the Dakinis and all the Dakas. We're calling them all to come to this place. So this is arising out of us. Remember, this is all out of us. So it's energizing this. So we're doing this at the crown 3 times, at the throat 3 times, at the heart 3 times, at the heart 3 times, at the throat 3 times, at the crown 3 times. So that's the significance of the bell and the dorje during the rejoicing. So now the praise again. The crowns of gods and demigods pay homage to your lotus feet. You who liberate from all unfavorable conditions, I praise and prostrate to Mother Tara. So we ring the bell. Droma, the last line there, Droma Yomla Chagsao Lo, means I praise and prostrate to Mother Tara. So we're rejoicing at the name of the deity, of the enlightened one. So now we come to the dissolution. The dissolution is the meditation where all this that we've generated, all this visualization, all this out there now is all being dissolved into light and is dissolving into the seed syllable in our heart center. And then from the seed syllable, it dissolves up. The seed syllable rises up, becomes invisible from the very bottom of the seed syllable, the tom syllable, and it dissolves into the flame, which is above the that circle above the tom. If you look on page 50, visualize that there is a flame above that circle, and that flame is the flame that wisdom flame that dissolves, becomes invisible into the emptiness, into the shunyata. So this is at our heart. So the dissolution instruction says, all outer and inner phenomena melt into light and dissolve into me. I also melt into the non-referential, unfabricated Dharmadhatu, the ultimate clear light Dharmakaya, the great bliss. All is in the Mahamudra state, the ordinary mind. So all this outer phenomena and all the inner phenomena, all these thoughts that we have, all this inner phenomena, all this mind stuff that we talked about, it's all phenomenal. How do we do that? All this outer stuff. How did all this come? How did that happen? It's all phenomenal. All this dissolves into light, all this into the vibration, into the essence vibration of all these things, melts into light and dissolves into me, into my heart center, through the crown of my head, that it comes down, and the seed syllable, the tom, is at my heart center. I also melt into the non-referential. Non-referential means there's nothing to refer to. There's nothing there. It's non-conceptual. It's non-dual. The non-referential, unfabricated Dharmadhatu. The Dharmadhatu, this is the field, this is the Tathagata field, this is the Buddha field. It has nothing in it. It's the Vajradhara. When we started off, we asked what was the Vajradhara. It's the field of the Vajradhara, the primordial mind, the primordial heart, non-referential, unfabricated Dharmadhatu. The Dharmadhatu, the sphere of the Dharma, of the truth body. The ultimate clear light Dharmakaya, the ultimate clear light of the Dharmakaya, the mind of the Buddha. The great bliss. All is in the Mahamudra state, the ordinary mind. The Mahamudra is the great position, the great seal, the great mind that is no mind. It's beyond being mind. It's beyond being words. The ordinary mind. Right now, our ordinary mind has all this monkey stuff going on and so on. But as we purify, it becomes extraordinary compared to this ordinary mind. Wow, this meditational mind is so extraordinary. But then, as we become the embodiment of that extraordinary mind, that becomes our ordinary mind. We transform into being the deity, and that becomes our ordinary mind. And this confused mind, this confused state, that becomes extraordinary. So all is in the Mahamudra state, the ordinary mind. So we'll just take 3 minutes here and visualize that transformation. All that light coming in through the crown of the head, coming into the heart center, the tom syllable dissolving up into the emptiness, into the Mahamudra state of mind. Your mind wanders, just bring it back to the tom syllable, the light, the green light dissolving into the clear light. No worries. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Relax and breathe normal. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold the breath. Open your eyes and breathe normal. Then it says, rest in the nature of the mind as such. So this post-meditative mind we take with us as we get up off the cushion. The mind as such. Okay. So now the dedication. By this virtue, the virtues accumulated in samsara and nirvana, and the innate nature, may all mother sentient beings, countless as infinite space, attain the form of noble Tara, free from rejection and acceptance, the state of great wisdom that is liberated from the 5 poisons. And then it says, adorn the practice with this and other dedication prayers. So this is a wisdom practice. Tara is a wisdom practice. She is the mother of wisdom. So the details of this were getting greater, deeper, more profound, etc. And so we see that we have the feminine within ourselves, we have the masculine within ourselves. We have the wisdom within ourselves, the feminine, and we have the skillful means, the method, which is the masculine within ourselves. So what we're doing is completing this to become a complete human being, that our conduct becomes pure wisdom and skillful means. Okay, so there's only a couple minutes left in our hour here, but I can stay for a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Okay. All right, well then next week we'll go through this practice. We'll make a real practice out of this with the time that we have. It'll be very powerful, and because this deserves that. All right, so now we need to do our dedications. So if you can go to the dedication part of whichever of the prayer books you have, 157. If you have the Dharma Surya Deity Yoga book, or if you have the brown book that we use for our 101, the Kagyu lineage dedication prayers. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lurgampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lord Kumpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the 3 kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikumpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om, Ah, Om, Om, Ah, Om, Om, Ah, Om. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome, Zara. See you all
Thank you
tomorrow.
very much.
Thank you, Karina,
Thank
Gavin.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank
Mitch.
you.
Okay. See you tomorrow evening for the life story of the Buddha.
Yes.
Bye,
Okay.
Lance. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
Brendan. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.